Hello everybody. As you can tell, I decided to get some fresh air today. It was pretty outside. Well, it's not pretty outside. It's kind of cloudy and overcast. But a little tea and stories is good on the outside. But I'm having my infusion. Ginger, lime, a little a little cinnamon, a little coriander, fresh ginger, lemons, orange. It's really good. You should try it. As you come in, make sure that you tag someone else so that they can come in and have a seat. I hope you have your little beverage with you. I am Mama Carla Wiley, and I'm here for our tea and stories today. Hello, Sister Betsy. How are you? Come in, please share with your contacts. Hey, baby. Today is one of those days. Whenever I see an overcast day like this, it always reminds me of my grandmother's cousin who lived next door to her. Her name was Julia. Now, cousin Julia, when her children were a lot older than us, and in fact, they were my mother's age. So they left the house and we were still little. And I was one of those children who liked to roam all over the place. So I would go next door and hang out with her. Hi, Nana Peace. And when I would go next door to hang out with her, we would cook together. We'd make cookies and biscuits. We would just hang out and just talk. And I was that little kid, the little chatty little girl. Can you tell? I look like my mama, and they call my mama Hootney, so they call me Little Hootney. And I would go next door, and I would hang out with my aunt, with my cousin Julia. I would call her Aunt Julia sometimes. I loved her. She had a really pretty round face and sweet cheeks, and I could hug her, and she just loved to be hugged and talked to. So she told me about family pie. Now, my grandmother had been making family pie for a long time. And they would make them for church picnics and things like that. But I never understood what a family pie really was. Was it a great big pie that the whole family could share? And it was in a way. But a family pie is actually a cobbler. But this is the way Aunt Julia told it. Now, baby, you come in and you sit right on down. We gonna make a family pie today. I'm gonna send half it over there to your grandmother's house for the rest of y'all. But you gonna help me make it, alright? Let's see. What kind of fruit I got in there? Why don't you get up on that step stool, baby, and you look in that cabinet? And I would get up on the stool and climb to the top. And always, she had canned peaches. They would can all the time. I learned how to can from both my grandma and my cousin Julia. She said, I think we gonna do peaches and apples today. I got some fresh apples that I done picked down there in the larder. And you, baby, you go and you get them peaches up there in that jar. You hear me? And I'd always say, yes, ma'am. And I'd come up there and I'd get the peaches and bring them down. These the peaches that you and I set up there and we canned just about 6 months ago. You remember, child? I know you do. This is the last jar I got. So we gonna put it together and we gonna put it into a pie. She would sprinkle some extra sugar, and then she would pull out her spice cans. Now, cousin Julia, she had the best amount. She had all kinds of spices. She put a pinch of black pepper in there, which I never understood why, but it always tasted so good. You would never know there was pepper. Then she put a little bit of cinnamon and some nutmeg. And then she'd take and put some grated ginger in there. And then she would go and she would get white sugar, but then she would get some brown sugar too. She said, don't tell your grandmother I put this brown sugar in here, because I don't want her to know my secrets. And I would just laugh. I loved it. Then she said, now we got to make the pie dough for the top. We ain't going to make no pie dough. We going to make drop biscuits. Now, in other households and other places in the world, they would call this a cobbler. The reason why they would call it a cobbler, because you put biscuits on top, and the biscuits would look like cobblestones. But family pie was deeper than a cobbler. And nobody beat Southern biscuits. Cousin Julia, she'd pull out that buttermilk and sit it down. And she had 2 different kinds of flour. A little bit self-rising flour. And then she put a little bit of regular flour in. And she said, girl, we gonna make this extra special. I want you to get that jar of honey for me. Now, when we think of honey jars, we may think of the bottle that looks like a bee, but not Grandma and not Cousin Julia. They actually had ceramic jars and had a little bee on top, so you would know that it was honey. And pulled it down, and she'd take that dipper and she'd dip in there, dip out a great big thing of honey, and she'd stir it into the biscuits. And then she would get cold butter and cut it into cubes and put it down in there. Then she'd take her hands. Her hands were chubby, and her fingernails she kept short. And she put their hands down in there, and she would do this with the batter. Put a little milk in, and do this some more. And the best biscuits would come out. When it was still a little moist, she'd take it out. She'd put some flour down on the counter. She'd flip it over. And then she'd get an old can that was cut in half. And she would make them biscuits. She let them sit for a little while so that baking soda would start to bubble up a little and make them biscuits get high. And then she'd say, now it's time to make this pie. She pulled out her biggest pan and sometimes she put shortening at the bottom. But if it was a special family pie, like the one she made that day, she put butter. And she smeared all along the bottom and all along the side. And then she would put that fruit in there. Now she had cut up some apples while I was doing the biscuits. And she'd take them apples and mix them in with the peaches and lay it all out. And she said, this gonna be a really good family pie. The whole family gonna love this, baby. And then she would go and she would sprinkle some more of her seasonings on top. A little bit more of that black pepper. Then she put them biscuits over the top. And then sometimes she would take some milk, just a can of evaporated milk, and she would take it and put a little bit over each biscuit. This will make it taste good, and it'll be all pretty and shiny. Then she put it in a hot oven. And while it was cooking, she would tell me stories about how Thomasville was before I was born. Sometimes she'd comb my hair for me. Sometimes she'd let me comb hers. And we'd laugh and play. And she would talk to me about what it means to grow up. She told me all about my family, things I didn't know. Some things she would say, shh, don't tell nobody I told you now. And I remember when that family pie got done, it was beautiful. It was a great big old pie. And I said, aren't you gonna take some out, Cousin Julia? And she said, no, baby. I know I said that I was making it for all of us, but I don't need that. But you little girls, y'all should take it with you. So that's what I did. I was real careful and carried it next door, up a little hill. And I said, Grandma, Cousin Julia sent a pie. What she sent a pie for? I'll be making... Oh, I see. She made her family pie. Yes. We gonna have a good dinner tonight. We gonna make sure that we scoop off some with some homemade ice cream and take it back over to her. Alright? Yes, ma'am. And that night, Grandma made a big old dinner with her special spare ribs and her special potato salad. And you always had to have some coleslaw if you're going to have anything that had to do with pork. We would have all of that. It was delicious. But I think what made it very special was that it was on rainy days like this that they would seem to do that special comforting cooking. And as the rain was pouring outside, we would all sit there and eat. And the rain and the hot air would rush through the windows. And it just felt good. Sometimes Grandma would turn off all the electric, in fact, most of the time. And she'd light a candle. And she'd say, we all need to be still and quiet and let the Lord do His work. I don't know. It seemed like after the storms, everything would smell so fresh and clear and clean. That night after the storm let up, Mama and I went next door because it was dark as midnight. It's the darkest I've ever seen is in North Carolina at night. We took Cousin Julia over some pie and some ice cream. And she said, oh, I'm so glad y'all came over. You know, I hate being by myself when there's a storm. But it's all right. It's all right. She said, I brought you some ribs too, Julia. That's what Grandma said. Grandma yelled across the road because it was just a little bitty tiny street. And she said, thank you, Elizabeth. Oh, I'm going to have a great feast tomorrow for lunch. Maybe Hootney can come over with me. Oh, I'm sorry, Cousin Julia. My mama would say, this child going to go home tomorrow. Oh, that's a shame. I enjoy her company. Well, the next time she comes over, she can come spend some time with you. Oh, that'd be lovely. I love you, little Hootney, just as cute as you want to be. And she's a good girl, too, Virginia. Thank you, Cousin Julia. Come on, baby. Let's go. Bye, Cousin Julia. Bye, baby. I remember those days. I remember being that little girl, that curious, chatty little girl, and having my Cousin Julia be so kind to me. I learned to be kind to others from those ladies. Now, food was always love, as you can tell. But it was more than just the food. It was the fact that they took their time with me and they weren't unhappy to see me, that they cared about me. We had to think sometimes, did we do that for our children? Did we do that for other people's children? All children need is a little bit of time. They don't need a lot. All they need is for someone to care, someone to notice them, someone to teach them something that they know. And it does make a difference. It makes a big difference. Now, I'm a preschool teacher. Can you tell? I love preschoolers. But one of the things that I realized in the generation that we have now, a lot of times we don't see that anymore. Just people taking time. I hope that it didn't just take a pandemic for children to just be noticed finally. But they're precious. And they do grow up. And they carry those memories with them. And the way they're treated is the way they treat others. Trust and believe. Now, this has been a short tea and stories because I think the skies are going to open. But I'm glad I got a chance to be outside for a while. Now, do you have stories that you like? If you know some, or if you want to hear some special stories, some special types of stories, please inbox me. Let me know what you want to hear. Tomorrow I'll be telling a couple of traditional stories. I decided to tell some stories that you might even know. Definitely your little ones know. But they're for you, for my grown-ups. And if you have your little ones with you, it's for my grown-ups and their children. Because everybody needs a story sometimes. It makes you feel cared for and loved. I thank you all for joining me for Tea and Stories. Today, my little heart earrings. I love this. Paparazzi, we have a lot of acrylics. If you want to see more paparazzi jewelry, just let me know. And I have to get going because I've got some cooking to do. Maybe I'll show you what I cooked tomorrow. How you doing, Sandy Boo? And I thank you very much for joining me for Tea and Stories. And please come back tomorrow for more. Take good care of you. Hi, Christine. Take care.